Ladies and gentlemen, that was Lynda Kay, Capitol Records recording artist and George Barris's favorite vocalist. Let's have a big hand for her. Welcome, 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 everyone. Today we are here with the family, friends, and fans from all over the world under one roof to celebrate the life and legacy of George Barris. Today, the immediate family, we're sitting up front. George's daughter, Joji Barris, pastor, son-in-law Barry, pastor, George's son, Brett Barris, his grandson, Jared Barris, his sister, Cassie Metz, and brother-in-law, Dennis Metz. And there's a lot of cousins going to go on forever, so we're not going to get into that. This man is truly ahead of his time in our crazy, kooky automotive industry, who would ultimately not only impact the very cars we drive today, but even how we experience them being utilized in movies, television shows, commercials, even in the local hobby shops, as all us baby boomers know when we grew up making those cars. The candy-colored tangerine flake streamlined baby is the title of renowned author Tom Wolfe's first collected book of essays, published in 1965. Wolfe's account of the custom car culture centers on George Barris and Ed Roth, fathers of the custom culture movement, spelled with a K. Wolfe states that George Barris, who had a completely different philosophy of customizing cars, Barris's pure art approach as compared to Roth's cars that were still designed for drivers, but called himself the king of the customizers. That was 1965. My name is Edward Lozzi, and I've known and worked with George Barris and his adorable wife, the late Shirley Barris, as his press agent, spokesperson, and personal slave for 35 years. By the way, nicknames were important to George Barris. Those who were branded by Barris with a nickname, derogatory or not, were closest to him. You all know who you are. Mine was simply Lousy Lozzi. Others were bubbly or sickly or winky or Tubbs or etc. Over the years, George would introduce me to celebrities, women, media editors, forgot my real name and simply introduced me this way. Here's my press agent, Lousy Lozzi. What a teaser. How do I fit a 35-year relationship as friend, extended family, and publicist into a few minutes? Here goes. One night after first arriving in LA, I was invited to Cher's star-studded roller skating party in Reseda, where I saw this cute roller skating couple keeping up with John Voight, Jack Nicholson, and Bo Derek, who's supposed to be here today, and others. They were darting in and out of the crowds of this disco roller skating ensemble. Shirley was wearing costume disco and George was himself. Gold chains, open shirt, mustache, and hyped up athletic look. And he was a damn good skater. Barris and I met through a mutual client of George, and that was it. He asked me to come in and see his cool offices and museum studio. George hired me. I was in my 20s while I was still at Rogers & Cowan PR by asking me to obtain motion picture studio press kits. He paid me $50 to go into the studios to get the press kits with all the photos of any movie with a car in it, especially if they were his cars. After starting our own publicity firm in 1981, I didn't have to ask George to be our first client. In fact, he said, I want to be your first client. He said, call it Edward Lozzi and Associates PR, and I did, and it's been 35 years. That's loyalty. Thrilled to work with George and Barris Custom, truly the planet's most well-known car designers. Now here is a quick sample. In the 1980s, he brought us in to work on the Universal Studios 106-car Barris Funny Car auction, with Shirley sprawled out on the hood of every car that was brought up to the block. It was hilarious. That, in the 80s, he also fixed me up. He fixed me up with Ursula Andress. Perks of the job. Thanks, George. He attended many of my celebrity events over the years, including our famous Wear All White parties with Peter Nygaard and Don Sterling and Joe Berg and Roger Neal, who's here today also. All of Joji Barris's weddings. George Barris's attendance at our events guaranteed that celebrities would show up. In the 90s, it was the Big Bear Lake era, with the award-winning Shirley and George Barris designed Pink Tudor Lake Mansion and all the grand receptions, family outings, powerboating, Miami Vice scarabs, water skiing, custom jet skis, and snow skiing. Then there was the Warner Brothers Batmobile film in 1989 openings with Dave Lee and Michael Keaton and stunt doubles. Then there was the opening of the Barris Cars and Stars Museum in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I went there with Shirley and George and I survived it. George Barris was receiving the Lifetime Achievement Saturn Award from the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, Horror, and Action Films. Also, the Miami Vice attraction that George customized the Wellcraft Scarab speedboats. Then there's the Knight Rider car, kit car meetings at Universal and witnessing the Barris production of the deal and the cars. And most cool, the Vanity Fair party for the George Barris 14-page photo feature in 1998 at the Gate restaurant and co-produced by Sandra Costa, Vanity Fair magazine, and moderated by Shirley Barris. Finally, in the 90s, these are only the highlights, folks. Anyway, NASA called. NASA, the National Space Agency. They wanted permission for Barris for his Moonwalker vehicle car that he built for a movie. And they liked the design so much that they wanted permission to use the design for creating the Martian rover landers for astronauts when they finally get to Mars. When I heard this, I called up Buzz Aldrin, who was a friend of mine for many years, and I asked him to call George at home. George didn't think it was the real Buzz Aldrin, but it was. 2000 was the kickoff of the Barris Custom Back to the 50s Culver City Car Show and its past 12 years of success, run by all the Barris family, and it is a sight to see. Also, private jettings to Vegas on the Maloof Citation jets for the Vegas car shows, being let off in Burbank with George, and then hearing 30 minutes later that the same jet we just departed from crashed and burned at Big Bear Airport. George changed my nickname to Lucky Lozzi. After that bit, it only lasted a few months, it went back to Lousy Lozzi. A spectacular and monumental funeral for our beloved Shirley Barris. Many of you are there that are here, who passed away in 2001. Now George and Shirley are skating together again. And of course the skates are customized. The New York Times George Barris promotion to customize the ugliest stock car in the world, the Prius. The car remains one of the most heavily covered ongoing media events for Barris, until the Batmobile was sold 2 years ago for almost $5 million at the Barrett-Jackson auctions. Another huge press promotion. The George Barris Special Edition 2010 Chevrolet Camaro press launch, attended by Jay Leno, as well as the nation's auto media and a lot of hot girls. As most of you know, George loved them around him. Only this past May, George received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Southern California Motion Picture Association for his famous work in motion pictures presented by Academy Award nominated actress Terry Moore. And only a few months ago, George appeared at his book signing extravaganza for Brett Barris for the book King of the Customizers, The Art of George Barris, the ultimate hardcover coffee table book on the 70-year plus Barris era. These final years have been bittersweet. Barris was a bundle of energy, working right to the very end, coming into his office, designing cars. 2 are in production right now that I know of. He was opinionated and sometimes with no patience. He knew his value and he knew the protection of the brand, the Barris brand, which we all enjoy today. And into the future, I will always miss him. George would actually buy car wax from his father and grandfather straight out of his garage, this man's garage, his family's garage, which would later cultivate into the household car cleaning brand we all know today as Meguiar's. A very close family friend and a 100% certified car crazy gentleman. Please welcome Barry Meguiar.
Thank you, Ed, and good morning, everybody. Well, here we are. It was Thursday, November 5th. It was the third day of SEMA. And I was doing my normal thing at SEMA. We have a stage up in front of SEMA, and we do our car crazy stage interviews for the 4 days. And we did 2.5 good days, and I just had a good lunch and I rushed out on the stage because I was meeting my first interviews for the afternoon, Keith Dean and Steve Carpenter. And I bounced out on the stage and they didn't share my enthusiasm. And I saw their countenance, I wondered what was wrong. They said, "You haven't heard?" I said, "No." And they gave me the news. You know, we knew it was coming, right? It was brain tumor for 3 or 4 years. Every time I saw him, I hugged him and wondered if I'd see him again, but the news hit me like a sledgehammer. I walked away. I knew I got a TV show to do. I got lots of folks to interview. And I just got to come on. And I was just overwhelmed. I'm on a stage, 360-degree stage. There was nowhere to run. And I bawled, and I sobbed. Like I know so many of you told me you did when you heard the news. Wow. Tough news. One of the hardest things I've ever done is go back and start interviewing folks and try to be car crazy on that stage. And Steve and Keith, I'm sorry, I think that was the worst car crazy interview I ever did with anybody. I don't even remember what I said with you guys. You're so kind. This is just overwhelming. You see, my lifetime is George Barris. We have a lot of history together. It was back in the 40s when he discovered, as so many of the early pioneers of our hobby did, this number 7 cedar resealed glaze in the glass bottle. And George fell in love with that product. If my granddad couldn't get over to leave him 5 or 6 bottles, he would drive over to Pasadena to pick them up. He loved that product. And the relationship with our two families began. Before long, I was meeting him myself at the Pan Pacific Auditorium and the Shrine Auditorium, and that was the LA Sports Arena, all the early custom hot rod shows, and so many of us started friendships back in those days. I was 12 years old when I started working for the family business. It was just like 8 family members. And I was in grade school, junior high, and we lived in a very meager place. Most people wouldn't know that, but we had a little bit of a farm of sorts out on the north side in the sticks of Pasadena, by Eden Canyon. We had all farm animals. We had a long driveway out to the highway, to the boulevard where the mailbox was. And when I came home from school, I would collect the mail and take it in for my mom to have. I always knew when Hot Rod magazine was about to come. Remember that? I mean, it must be, surely today's the day. And I remember poignantly stepping up my feet a little bit to pull out the mail to see if my Hot Rod magazine was there. And I remember the disappointment that I would have when it wasn't there yet. I had to wait another day. But when it came, man, it was heaven. And like most of you, I read it cover to cover over and over. And it seems like every month George Barris was in those pages, and I became mesmerized with George Barris. 12 years old until my time now, my life. I just think about how entwined George Barris has been in my emotions, and then in my personal relationships, and then in my love. It's incredible. We thought we lost him when Shirley passed away in 2001. They were such a team, weren't they? They so loved each other. She was such a part of his life. I think back when the fire happened, George, right, was about ready to give it all up. But it was Shirley saying no. Found the new location, and look at all that's happened since then. George was in mourning. We thought, boy, he'll never get it back together. But because of this loving family, you guys are just amazing. You surround me with your love. Friends like Blackie, and of course with Ed beside him all the time, brought him back. And look at all that's been accomplished since Shirley's passing. One of the proudest moments of my life back in 2004, the Peterson Museum gives the Lifetime Achievement, the Robert E. Peterson Lifetime Achievement Award every year. And there's a short list of names that Bob Peterson put on that list. He said he wanted to honor. And George was on that list. In 2004, I had the great honor of presenting to George in front of about 1,500 people back in Indianapolis this wonderful award. I don't know who was honored the most, George or me. I got to honor my hero, be there for that. I mean, you can only even imagine how our lives have entwined through the years. Indeed, it was mentioned by Ed, but he's the most famous car guy in the world and the most loved car guy in the world. There's not even anybody in second place. There isn't. When you think about it, we have a lot of famous car guys, but apart from a Carroll Shelby or somebody like that, most car guys are famous within their own genre of the car hobby. The godfathers of lowriders, or the gurus of the great classics, or whatever. They're known in their genres, but you get outside that genre, they're not even known throughout the car hobby. Is there a car guy on the planet that doesn't know George Barris? Think about it. I don't care what you drive, and I don't care what country, and I've traveled the world. Everybody knows and reveres George Barris, and loved unbelievably. So, most loved, most famous car guy. They asked me to just iterate some of the highlights of his life, and can you imagine having this task? I have some things written down here, and for everything I've written, there's a dozen other things I could think of including, but time doesn't permit that. But you know, it did start back when he was like age 7, with his kit airplanes, and then his kit cars that he handcrafted and he customized. You know, that's where it all started. You know, today if you go to his office, there's more than 220 kit cars that he hand-built and customized. I mean, it was a passion that lasted for 83 years. This man, he had a gift. God gave him gifts that he was true to his entire life. Of course, he loved his brother Sam and gave Sam great credit for his inspiration. It was the Barris brothers, right? And they built the great cars, and it was that 1925 Buick that we hear so much about that started it all. The family moved down to Los Angeles during World War II, and the King of Customs started getting some traction, and things started to happen. And you just think, I mean, we have a lot of pioneers. Blackie down here, revered. We're talking about George today. And George didn't copy anybody. He was a trailblazer. It all came out of his head. You know, we've all heard the stories of how he went in and took knobs off the dresser and, you know, put in the grill of the car. I mean, it was all over the place, grabbing them. He'd drive down the street and he'd see the headlights in that car, wonder how they'd go with the tail fins in that car, and whatever. And he put it on. His mind didn't work the same as ours. It was a different mind. And he created some of the most awful, ugly cars I've ever seen in my life. But you had to love him. But in the midst of all that, he created just unbelievable cars. I mean, think of the cars. Think of the cars that he made through the years. winning the Amber Award. 5 times he won the Amber Award. You know, the only one that won the Amber Award twice, right, were the a la carte. Think of that. I mean, he was a pioneer. What he did, hot rods, the Hirohito Merc, of course, that just almost changed the world. I mean, it affects styling even to this day. And, you know, George loved Pebble Beach. He was always at Pebble Beach. It was a whole other world from his normal life, but he loved great cars of all types and descriptions. He was always right there in the midst of everything at Pebble. But this year, 2015, he was there with his Hirohito Merc. Actually, both Mercs. There he was. He had his cars in the lawn at Pebble Beach. And the Hirohito Merc won best of class at Pebble Beach. Could you believe that? I have lots of car guy friends in all different parts of the car hobby, and I must say some of them, they don't get George. They'll never get George. And well, but they have these wonderful, I don't mean to put them down, but they have a certain idea of what a real big car guy is. And here's George with his Merc on the lawn of Pebble Beach at the Pebble Beach Concord Elegance. Does it get any better than that? There's a sense of humor that I looked at that. I said, okay, God, you can take him now. Just so great. Everything that he experienced like that, I just looked at. I think I enjoyed it more than he did. It was so wonderful. Car manufacturers caught on him early on. Chip Pooch is here. A lot of car designers helped Detroit, but George was the first. They saw his genius early on, his tail fins and the bubble tops and the hidden headlights, and he was all over the place. The car manufacturers helping with their concept cars, and a lot of designs we see even today from the car makers were inspired by George Barris. I mean, think about it. Think of the impact this man had. Movie stars. You know, for a car builder today to build a car for a movie star, it's a big deal. And if you build it for 2 or 3 movie stars, it's a really big deal. And it is. I'm not taking anything away from that. But then there's George Barris, right? I just some of the names he built cars for. He's great friends with Elvis, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., John Wayne, John Travolta, James Dean, Farrah Fawcett, Bo Derek, and Margaret. You know, he has 275 photos with celebrity customers in the shop there. I mean, how can you begin to describe, how can you begin to appreciate what this man did? If you walk back into the inner sanctums, there's these stacks and stacks of well-organized boxes. It's a labyrinth. You walk back in there, all the boxes and all the shelving, and it's so well organized. This man chronicled everything. There's the monkeys, the Knight Rider, and all the famous builds, and all the documentation, and all the articles, and the columns he wrote. 1,500 boxes of history sitting there in his shop. You walk through and just say, can you imagine this? And even that doesn't begin to describe George Barris. He was the ultimate one man. Ed was right beside him, did so much. But listen, has there ever been anybody in the history of the world that self-promoted more than George Barris? How many has got that packet of stuff every 2 or 3 weeks in the mail to see where he was the last 2 or 3 weeks, right? He was here and he's here. And then with a personal note, Barry, I was with your guys in Sweden last month. They're the best, you know. How did he do all that? I mean, he had Ed to help him, but, you know, pushing 90 years old, he's still doing it. How is that possible? For a builder to build a car that's in a movie, that's a big deal. Several of you here have done that more than once. George did it dozens of times. You know, and I can't begin to describe them all, but all the way back to Cary Grant's Mercedes-Benz in North by Northwest. Think how many years ago that was. Starsky and Hutch. The Monkees. When I say these names, you picture the car right away, right? The Monkees. Beverly Hillbillies. The Knight Rider. You know what he told us about when they did the scenes with Kit? He didn't have he got in the trunk himself. He ran the car himself in the trunk of the car. This is George Barris. unbelievable. The Munster coach. Is there anybody on the planet that has a TV that doesn't know the Munster coach? Seriously, I mean, think about it. We're here honoring a man this is not a normal man. Not just a car guy. This guy is bigger than life. This guy is amazing. And then, of course, the Batmobile. The most famous, the most famous car in the world. Think about it. Is there anybody on the planet that has any access to any kind of news? I understand the chaos of some countries, they don't get news, but anywhere where there's civilized worlds, anybody doesn't know the Batmobile. He has more than 100 different die-cast car versions of the Batmobile. That's how many, and that's not all of them. That's not all of them. Somebody said that car is just a piece of junk. Going to Barry Jackson, it's not worth $100,000. What's that fun? $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. Oh my goodness, $4 million, $4.5 million, $4.6 million. Were you as proud as I was for George right now? That was a moment, wasn't it? That was just a moment. Honors, I mean, you've heard some already. I asked the family, how many Lifetime Achievement Awards did George get? They couldn't tell me. They lost track. So many Lifetime Achievement Awards. Last year, 2014, he was inducted into the SEMA Hall of Fame. I think what it was proudest. I was so proud of him. I mean, I know you all share with me. We love this man. And to just enjoy it with him and know that here he is, he's 89 years old and he's still going, he's still loving life and loving his friends, and to be so honored. Wow, that's fantastic. I think the greatest honor of all was, and what kept him going, he loved going to shows, meeting people and signing autographs. And as you know, wherever he went, they'd stand in line for hours to get 2 minutes with George, get to hear his voice, get to see him up close and personal, get that autograph. Wow. Incredible. I appreciate, Father, your comments here. And I would just close with something a little bit more serious. So, where's George now? We should have had some nice platitudes here about heaven and all. He's not here. His casket's here, his body's here, but we're made for eternity. George is in his eternity right now, so let me be politically incorrect. Is he in heaven or is he in hell? He's one of those two places right now. Okay? Wow. I know that's politically incorrect, but inquiring minds want to know, where's George? You don't speak with some confidence or I wouldn't bring the subject up. You know where I'm going with this. But I guess the question would be, where will you be after you die? Same question we need to ask all of us. When we're at funerals, we think about our own mortality, don't we? So we'll all end up, or our bodies will all end up in a casket like, not one like that. I mean, good job, guys. That is just, pictures of that casket are all over the world as we speak. It's already been seen by millions of people. Just incredible. But for all that George did, he lived a full life. Man, did he live a full life. And he brought such joy to so many people. He loved so many people. He went and he just did all this stuff. But none of that earned his way to heaven. Even if he took everything that he had, all his estate, and he cashed it all out and he gave it all to the poor, that wouldn't get him into heaven. Because we can't earn our way into heaven. We can't do that. We just can't. It doesn't work that way. I often say if you can earn your way into heaven, car guys would be at the head of the line because car guys are special. I mean that sincerely. And when I say car guys, I mean guys and gals. There is a community that we enjoy that is so precious and so wonderful. And we all know, think of how much better people we are and how many better people we know because we're car guys. We wouldn't even know each other if it wasn't for cars. And don't you know, every car guy you know would go out of their way to help you. I mean, it's a wonderful fraternity. It really is. But that didn't get us into heaven. It just does not work that way. Some would say, well, George couldn't have gotten to heaven because he was a scoundrel. You were just a scoundrel. Well, guess what? We're all scoundrels. We're all scoundrels. And the scriptures make that very clear and talk about how there's none righteous. In fact, it says, there's one scripture I like, he who says he has no sin, there's no truth in him. So another scripture says, our righteousness is filthy rags. You know, all of sin and fallen short of the glory of God. But the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. That's the good news. That's the good news. Most of my car guy friends know the historical Jesus. They believe that Jesus lived and died and all that, but they don't know Jesus is Lord. They also know that I'm rather enthusiastic about that. And most of them want to talk to me, they just don't want to talk to me right now about it. Just I'll catch you later. I want to come to church with you, Barry. How about Sunday? Well, I'm busy. I got a little something going on Sunday. I'm used to that. But it's something we have to deal with. I'll tell you one quick story. Dave Holz, one of the most famous car designers in Detroit, worked for General Motors, Harley. He designed the 65 Riviera. He designed the 59, particularly the fins on the 59 Cadillac, which he was embarrassed about. Whenever we introduced it somewhere, don't mention the 59. He was so embarrassed over it. They came about 5 years after he died. They came into vogue. He just died 5 years too soon to get all the glory. Now they're lauded Art Deco and all that. But he did so many great things, and Karen and I and Patty and Dave had this great friendship. And whenever we were at events, Meguiar Island, wherever, we'd spend quality time together. But he didn't like to talk about God. And all the meals we had, I knew I couldn't pray out loud for my meal. I didn't want to offend Dave and Patty. I wouldn't do that. One time I was speaking at a church on Sunday morning, about 20 minutes from Dave and Patty's house. And they knew it. They knew it because we went to dinner the night before. And I told him where I was speaking and all. When I was sat on that platform, I kept watching for Dave and Patty to walk through that door. But they never walked through that door, either one of the two services. I got thinking later, if I was speaking anywhere else but at church, he would have come to hear me speak because we were friends. But he wouldn't come to church. But then he got cancer. Got stage 4 cancer. And he called me. He said, Barry, I think maybe I need to talk to you about God. And we had this wonderful conversation. And I said, David, it doesn't matter what you've done. You know, he loves you as much as he's loved anybody, ever. Because he loves us all the same. He has one desire, and that's for you to be in heaven. And it's not hard. You can't earn it. It doesn't matter what you've done. All you have to do is recognize you are a sinner. Let God know that you know that and ask for his forgiveness. And he'll forgive you. Accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, and you're in heaven. He died not long after that, as Patty said. You know, he died as peacefully as you can possibly imagine. And those last couple of weeks, he didn't hear anything about cars or Pebble Beach or anything else. He was focused on where he was going. You know, essentially. Lots of car guys have been like that. They got Chip Miller, Carlisle, Chip, the great bastard, died way too young. Had nothing to do with God. But then he got this horrible disease and he had some prolonged pain. And it was a blessing because during that period of time, he figured out he better get straight with God, and he did. He's in heaven today. Local guy, Bill King, did the same thing. He got cancer. In the midst of all that, he didn't die. In fact, his life was prolonged. He ended up leading all kinds of people to the Lord. I look at that and I think, wow, God, you're so good. I mentioned this only, and I'm going to close up, but some of you may be delaying and saying you shouldn't really delay. You really shouldn't. A lot of us have been hanging around for decades. I want us to hang around together for eternity. That's what I want. With George. Okay, that's what I want. The families give me their permission to tell you about this, because I do have some good news. You want to know where George is? George is just fine. George is just fine. George and I spent a lot of time together. In his office, we shared and read scripture, prayed together. He went to church with us. He spent time with, I have a car guy, past guy named Greg Glory. He's a car guy. And I talked to Greg about George yesterday. And George is in a great place. There's a scripture that says, if we're Christians and we know that we have a friend or a relative, a loved one who's died, who's a Christian, that we don't sorrow as those who have no hope. It's not the end. It's like, well, nice knowing you, George. No, it's just for a moment. George is. He's with Shirley. We can celebrate. This is celebration day. We all have to die sometime, right? He had a good run. And we do sorrow. And I'm sure just about everybody in this group has shed tears over George. And we shared some today, and we'll share more before the day's out. But we don't sorrow without hope. That's the good news. That's the good news. Wow. So I was thinking this morning, what would George say to us right now? George probably would not be quoting scripture to you. That probably wouldn't be it. He'd probably have just a thing that he'd say, you know. And I was thinking, well, if he boiled it down, what would George say? Just like, you know. And after 90 years of a long, productive life, you know what I think George would say? I think he'd say, from his vantage point, eternity is real and life is short. Life is short. And if I would add something on that, I would say for most of us, time's running out. So if you want to talk to me sometime, give me a call, okay? Let's pray. Father God, we honor you this day, and we thank you for George Barris, this incredible man who impacted our lives, literally our lives. I mean, we had untold millions of lives around the world. How many people did he look into the eye and say hi to and sign an autograph and encourage? How many people look back and count that as one of the highlights of their entire lives? So we thank you. We celebrate his life today. But more importantly, more than all of that, we celebrate the fact that we know where he is. We know where he is. Praise God. We know where George is. And I pray, dear God, that there might be scores of us in this room that might be provoked by George's life and the way he ended his life to say in their own way right now, God, I know I am a sinner. I recognize that just like everybody else. I do want you to know I recognize that, and I need your forgiveness. Would you forgive me, Lord? Knowing that when we ask him, he forgives us. We don't have to beg. It's just automatic. Asking God to forgive us for sins and honoring Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. Wow, what a great last chapter for George's legacy. We pray that'll happen right now, this day, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Lynn. Wow. Look at this. Only George could create something like this. Can you hear me, Blackie? Where do I start? I guess I started around 1962 or 1963 when I had a friend of mine that introduced me to this word George Barris, a guy that builds fancy cars. I was 6 or 7 years old. I didn't know the word custom. I didn't know what it meant. He said, he said, meet this guy, George Barris, builds fancy cars. He has a place in North Hollywood called Barris Custom City. And I thought, wow, this guy has his own city and he makes fancy cars. His own city in the city of Los Angeles. And I couldn't wait to go there. Fortunately enough, I went to school right around the corner from the place. One day after school, we would go there, and there was no gates, there was no fences. You could walk around, George let everybody in, you could see all the cars. One Sunday, we ditched church. Sorry there, Barry. We went over to Barris Custom. There was a tour bus sitting at the end of the driveway. So we leaned in and pushed the door open. It wasn't locked, and we went inside. And as George would say, oh my God, OMG, it was Elvis Presley's tour bus. When Elvis was in town, he couldn't park it in Beverly Hills, so he took it to George's and parked it there. So for quite a few Sundays, we'd skip church and go hang out in Elvis's bus until that was gone. Fast forward about 10 or 12 years, hundreds of model builds and a couple of hot rods later, a friend of mine was working in George's shop, and I went over to see him, and he said, Tony, come on in and help me. I got to sand his car I'm building for George for a TV show. So I went in there, and I jumped at that chance, and I helped him sand and block this car for a TV show, and that was it. For years, I just was in and out of George's shop, hanging around. I formed quite a friendship with George. Oh God, I don't know what to say. Excuse me a minute. So I formed a friendship with George. He rented me some space there. I opened my own custom shop there. George pretty much gave me reign to do everything I wanted at the shop. I built my own cars and worked on customers' cars there, and I got to know George really, really close. I got to know his friends and all these fabulous people. Everybody that was in George's life. As you all know, George, everybody got a name. I'm not going to tell you what mine was. There's the Moose, there's Augie, there's Andy Pandy, there's Richie Ditchy, Minnie Itchy, who lightened up George's eyes. Every time he came over, George would smile. One guy came with his own nickname. George's oldest friend and George's #1 fan was Blackie Gejeian. He was always there for George. Somewhere in the mid to late 90s, I started traveling with George. Him and I became really close. I started traveling with him and Shirley, and he would introduce me to people all over the country. After Shirley passed in 2001, George and I hit the road running. I traveled with him. I was his confidant, and he was my confidant. And I met millions of people everywhere, and they received him like a king. And I was in awe of how these people, he was my buddy, he was my friend, he was my confidant. These people, he was a god to them. He was an icon. And they told him, George, we are like this because of you. And I didn't understand quite the impact. It had an impact on me personally, but I didn't understand the impact he had on the world until I saw it all. And every time we came back from our trips, George would say, Tony, thank you. That was quite an experience. And his family would thank me for helping their father see the world and be his partner. And I'd turn around and say, George, no, thank you, because this has been quite an experience for me. And without you, I could have never done this. So, towards the end, when George was getting a little tired, a little ill, we would talk quite a bit, and I went to see him quite a bit. And I knew that George was pretty much happy and complete with his life. His son came out with a book. He goes, it took him forever, Tony. He goes, but this book is the best book I have ever seen on cars. And he was so proud of him. And he goes, and his daughter, Joji, she took over the business. She's doing a great job. I don't understand the computer stuff. And she's selling everything on the computer. And he goes, but she's running the company. She's doing a good job. I go, she's got us out here. And he goes, and she's got Barry. Barry's a big car guy. She married him. And that was The best thing in George's life is grandson Jared, the light of his eyes. George couldn't have asked for anything better, because this is George Barris style. And I can't say goodbye to my friend. I'm going to say until I meet you again. I love you, George, and I'm going to miss you. Thank you.
There have been said so much about George, you don't really know where to start in. But before I start in on anything on George, I want to first make a lot of thanks for myself to witness to what's happening here. George can't see what's happening here, but I'm here with his eyes to see everything they have done for him. First person I want to thank is Tony Wood. Tony didn't stand up here and tell you what he did. Every place that they went over the whole entire world, Tony was the man to stay with George and took care of him like a baby. Believe me, overseas, when they went to Australia, when they went to Canada, when they went to New York, no matter where in the state, Tony was there to take care of him like a baby. And I want to thank Tony for taking care of him. The second one that I want to thank Joji. Well, a lot of you people see Joji running around crazy and watching and everything. I want to tell you, she is the best businesswoman in the world that I've ever seen beside of her. Glad to know Shirley. Well, I knew Shirley when she was single. I knew George way before he ever met Shirley. And we had a wonderful time in the 40s until he met Shirley and they got married and had a family. But they're family people. And to watch Shirley as being a businesswoman, and I'll say this right here, and I'm standing right on top of George, is if it wasn't for Shirley, she was such a businesswoman. She is the one that kept George going, believe me, because he would make money. He would spend it all, he didn't care. One story, maybe I should not say, but we were in Sacramento, and when we were in Sacramento, George was selling his books and autographing his books, but Shirley was there to collect the money. When she collected that money, we named her Claus. Because me and Sharp from NHRA Museum, we were there, and she had money coming out of every part of her finger. And then when she looked at you like this with claws, she was hanging on that money. That was a lot of George's success with his wife, and then after his wife, to have a beautiful family like he had. He ought to be very proud to have a family like George had. He had everything to go for. When you lost Shirley, and everybody knows that when you lose your mate, it's everything in the world, because you're so used to that person, and when they're gone. I mean, I lost both of my children before I got gone, but you make such plans. I worked 70 years. I worked for my kids to have what I didn't have, to work and work and work. But I'm proud of it. I have beautiful grandchildren, and I have to hand it down. But I want to make an education of these people so they understand what the world's all about. It has changed so much, because we now had, when my mother and father worked for $1 a day, we still lived on $1 a day, $2 a day. That's all they brought home. But today, you can bring anything home, and the expenses have gone so high that it absolutely kills you. But I said, I got to thank but standing here and the part of the family. Now, we know we're losing George, and we have lost George, but I'm here standing right above him to witness what this group has done. And the leader of that group is Jared, his grandson. When Jared was young, and his grandfather George wanted somebody to take his shoes, and I think he did a hell of a job by talking Jared to go to school where you can understand more by learning off of all the equipment they got to work with now. And I'll tell you for sure, when Jared was young, he built a pickup and he brought it to the show, Georgia show, and he did one hell of a job on it, and he built a second pickup. We have a future here. I know we're losing George, but remember, we still got a piece of Jared, and he's George's grandson. And I hope that we have another Jared in the family who do like I want to apologize for myself, because I'm sitting here, I'm shaking like a damn dog. But I got sugar diabetes real bad now, and all the equipment, my insulin and all. When I got here to take my shots and all, my equipment wouldn't work, so I've been without insulin for 2 days, and I'm starting to shake like a dog, and I knew to come up here and say something about George, but I am going to say something about George from our early days back in the 40s. And you had to know George and watch him work. If you watch him work, you think he was a masterpiece. And another person with him is his brother Sam. You had to know Sam. He was very quiet. He wouldn't talk like George. George was a producer, and he was a damn good producer. I mean, he was up there. If he had I don't care what he had, he would sell it to you just like my son would do. He would sell it to the Eskimos. They don't need what you're trying to sell them, but he would sell it to them. So, but to watch Jared and all the Barris family, the way they're coming, and I have to give credit, like I said, to Joji for taking this organization of her dad and the family and putting it together. You don't know, this is not an easy job. I know, because I produced auto shows for 51 years. And then when you get sick, you're sick. I mean, when you're gonna die, you're gonna die. But all you can do is wish to keep going. And I'll be 90 years old, but I'm never gonna give up. I'm gonna go straight ahead. And Joji, and to keep that business going. If it wasn't for you, I don't know what would happen, but you are just like your mother. Remember, I sent you a picture of you and your mother in the pool, but you were only about 10 inches long, and she was holding you in your hand in the pool. So, I know the Barris family very well, but let's go back to George and back to Sam. I mean, Barry Meguiar said so much here. I mean, he explained everything like a person should, but he's a pro at it, man. Barry, you did a wonderful job with George and telling what George really like. You did a hell of a job. Thank you, Barry. Believe me. But the Meguiars have been with the family for a long time. And the support that they have given to the car builders and stuff, you had to be a SEMA show to see his program. And Lynda and myself and George and Wendy Winfield, and now Ed Escondarian is up there, and they're doing a tremendous job for Barry and Meguiar's. They have supported the car show business all the way through from the beginning. But George is the man that created, actually, He created this industry that we got today. And the industry we got today will never die. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you want to know how big it's going, go to the SEMA show and look where they're putting the cars and the booths. You got to have good legs. I could never make it. I always get a three-wheeler and I just keep running as much as I can. But when George and Sam started at the old shop, and when they started to do lead work, and they were the first one to be doing lead work. Well, if you knew anything about lead, and going back in the early 40s, the lead that we had at MAs had so much acid in it that when you painted the darn car, a year and a half later, you'd see a bubble come up. So what happened to that? But if you took an ice pick and stuck in it, the darn acid would come out of it. But the acid and the lead that they got today is you could put it on and sweep it just like butter and put it on. It was like the olden days. When you seen something was ugly and you had mistakes made, you had to take your torch and your wire brush, take all the darn lead back off and let it fall on the floor, put it in the milk box, make 6 again and start all over. But today's industry is the best that we've ever had in our lifetime. We have builders out there that are unbelievable. But it's all coming from their head in the computer and using it together. And I'll tell you what, we got a future in front of us with all these young kids learning the real trade. And this trade will never die. But I still say, this trade always started with the people that started in the days of the 40s, and that was George and his brother. Believe me. In order to understand them, you really had to watch them work. And then you would understand how these guys could make what they're making. Well, there's a lot of words that came in, you know. Oh, you own a lead sled. Well, where did the name lead sled come from? It all came from back when the Barris was started. And everything was lead, no bondo, no nothing. But with car, when you weighed it out, you would figure out 20% of the weight of that car was lead. So everything was put with lead. Once you put the fender against the goddamn side molding, you brazed it on, you took the lead and you leaded it on and then flushed it out, put the fender in the body, and everything was smooth. But it was all lead. There was no bondo being used. But the workmanship to watch somebody work and the talent that they have that comes out of their mind and delivered to their hand to take a regular hammer for doing lead work and body work. Well, that goes back when years traveled on to where it came to 1957. And we thought, well, you know what? George has built so many beautiful, beautiful cars for every actress and actresses. He lost so much money from having these beautiful actress women come down and go all around the shop. Every person is seen when they come through the door. They crawl out from underneath the car and all over, and they took nothing but looking and looking and looking. I don't blame them, but George was paying the bill for those guys to be working while they're looking at a good set of legs to go by. So I don't blame them. George, I gotta say one thing. They had to know you from the early days, and your brother Sam from the early days, to know what we're really doing. We're talking about paint companies today, which are beautiful. I mean, the paints that they're putting out today is so far in future and so beautiful. You cannot believe that the paints that we're having today. But if you see the old timers, like George and Sam in the early days of the 40s, you would see George mix his own paint. He never took paint. He never took paint from out of a can off of a shelf. He made his own paint. But in order to get the pearl to start with pearl, he would take genuine pearls and put it down and crush it and crush it and crush it and then mix it in his paint. That's why all of this pearl job that he did in the early 40s on all what we call lead sled, they were just absolutely gorgeous. But today we're talking about today's market. I'm not saying that who is the best, but the best designer was George. When we took up 29 Model A's pickup, and it was on the side of a wall. In the shop on the other side was Archie Moore's car. And Archie Moore's car, there was only 2 built in the world. One of them was on the Astoria that went down to the bottom of the ocean, and the other one was in George's shop. And when the shop burned, it was all made of magnesium, and it just exploded. It just went every part in a place it was. Because the magnesium just burned everything down. Well, there was an electrical pole in the alley, and it was right next to George's shop. And when that fire started and burned George's shop completely down, everything went down. The upholstery shop, the body shop, everything. And then everybody started to want lawsuits. Well, he was smart enough to put on top of his door, and I'll never forget it because I've told every body person that I know, be sure if you have your customer's car, put on the top on that damn thing that you're not responsible for any item. Everybody that tried to sue George, all I can remember saying, stand in line, stand in line. He tell them that they're coming up, cussing and hollering and screaming, just like I do, but that's okay. But he told them, stand in line, because he knew he was protected. So I learned that from George, and I passed it on to every guy that's got a shop to protect himself from the customers with their car. Because George would not let anybody take a car out of that place without paying for it. Because usually if they paid for it, they'll get that damn car and go, and then you have to chase him all over the goddamn world to try to get the car. You can't do it. So he would not let any cars go out of the shop. But I learned so much from George. Ever since, excuse me, my mouth is so damn dry with this. I need insulin, but that's okay. I was really scared to get up here because Jared asked me to speak for George. That's my right hand and my left hand, right there. That you lived your life with and did everything that they did. But, oh, thank you. My mouth is sticking.
Boy's thirsty.
Thank you, Tony. You see how I said how he took care of George? Tony's always taking care of somebody, and he does the best job I've ever seen. Because George was so happy when he traveled with Tony because he knew he was number one, he wasn't going to get lost. And if you see George get through with a show and sitting in the doggone in a soft chair and waiting for the airplane to come in. Well, a lot of people don't know, but George had false teeth. Sometimes they were hanging clear out of his mouth. That was George. He didn't give a damn. He went to sleep. So, but Tony was there to really take care of him. But getting back to George, I learned so much from George of the way when we brought the a la carte, which is a 29 Roadster pickup, and it was only the car in the place that was on this side of the wall. When the shop burned down, only the car that was saved was the a la carte. And George said, well, we might as well throw the towel in. I said, no way throwing the towel in. So Richard Peters that owned the car and myself and George went to a restaurant. He took out the napkins that you use in the restaurant, and he started drawing. Everything come out of his head. Then he passed it over to me to see, is it look okay? And then I passed it to Richard. No, that don't look okay. For 2 hours, he kept sitting there and scratching on that paper. And then the last shot he made was absolutely bobbed the fenders and bobbed the tail. I mean, the car with a car. I says, you know what, George, if you can build that just as it is, leave it alone, we're done. Let's eat. I mean, we've been drinking coffee for 2.5 hours. Let's eat. So they brought us the menu. When they brought us the menu, on the top of the menu it said, a la carte. That's George, we got the name for the car. You don't have to lie about me. I don't like people to lie. I mean, you either tell the truth of what things were. So the car was named a la carte. Well, George wanted to throw the towel in and shut down the whole shop. I said, George, you can't. You've got such a future in front of you. You cannot give up the work that you're doing. You have to continue. So the first thing we needed to do was get a poultry shop put back together. Well, Richard had a lot of money. He worked for his dad. They had a big shipping deal, shipping grapes and all. And I said, Richard, only the way we could do is put this guy back in business. Buy him a table, buy him the sewing machine, buy him everything, and then when he's done with the poultry, you'll give it to him so he can be back in business. And that's exactly what we did. So he thought that he was going to work 8 hours a day and go home. Oh, no. There's a 55-gallon barrel over there, and I put all the burnt wood that I could gather from the shop, and then put all the magnesium and all the metal I could put with it, and kept that thing burning. So we kept him there for 3 days and 3 nights, and his wife comes with his lunch. When are you going to send my husband home? He ain't coming home until he finishes the damn poultry, and then he's back in business. So that's how the poultry person got back to business at George's shop. But George, he built hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of custom cars for every movie star you could think of. He built a car for them, and they were so happy with it. Another movie star wanted one. Another one. Pretty soon he had a line lined up for years to get in line to come and build the movie cars. So then he started building his own projects of building, with the, like a lot of people, maybe you didn't see it or not, but there was a service station right next to George's shop. That Batmobile sat there on that roll, and then for the next one, and it went up for $1 million. Then the next one, and it just kept continuing. And now you go to George's shop and he's got a beautiful Batmobile sitting there that you cannot believe how beautiful it is. Because when I talked to the promoter from Australia, and I seen the Batmobile in a picture, I said, did you bring George, Tony, and the Batmobile together? No. He said, I just brought Tony and George. And the Batmobile, that's my Batmobile. And I'll tell you one thing. You got to be good to where every show that George went to, he broke record crowds in every show. And I am proud of a man to do that kind of work. To have record-breaking crowds of people. I really don't know. Because see, there's not too many things I can not say here, because George and I, when he was single, oh boy. We told
no more.
I won't say that. I can't say it here anyway. But George, the first day, he had so much fire and power in his body. I want to tell you something. He never slowed down to the day he's laying right in front of us right now. And his mind is still working. His mind is still working. If a good-looking lady goes by, say she's in trouble. He will come out of that. He will come out of that. Well, it took a lot of encouragement to get up here and speak to this wonderful And I want to say it over again. Jared, you did one hell of a job. I'm telling you over and over, and I'm not going today. I hope for everyone. I wish you could step out one time, take a good look what you have done for him, and then let him go back in the box. It's called rest in peace, Buzz. I'm 90. I'm not scared. I'm ready. I'll tell you something that I even did because I want to see what the hell they put on my graveyard. So I wouldn't have had my stone made already. I picked the pictures out myself. I don't want my grandkids to rush with me right now. I don't want them. They got a good choice, but I don't know. I want to see it. So, it's weird to come through a house and see gravestones. But what could you do? I've worked all my life. I want to see what I'm being buried. Why am I really doing this? So you'll understand why. When you're alive and you own a ranch or a house, cars, collection, whatever, they'll all go in weeks. It's gone. The day you die, it's already up for auction. It's gone. I have never sold one damn thing in the whole years from 40 till now. I have not sold one thing. There is more garbage in my shop and the house, and every closet there is full. And I call it junk. And everybody says that's everybody's treasure. Well, I don't care whose treasure. I mean, just leave it here. Just leave it here. This is where I was born. I've been there all my life. I've been there close to 90. Well, June I'll be 90 years old. And then decided. I spent in the Navy, but I already had my car already 3/4 done back in 1942-43. And when I graduated from high school, I joined the Navy right the day after. I mean, the day after I got out, I didn't want to go to the Army. I didn't want to carry that pack on my back like a mule and go up and down. No, I want to go Navy. I want to go water and get sicker than hell and he go with the sun, I want to feed all the fishes, but no kidding. This is the very best. Like Jared called me up and said, Blackie, are you going to be able to make it? I said, if I have to crawl on my knees, I will be there. I will be here no matter what. And right now, I haven't had no insulin shots for 2 days. I'm starting to shake like a dog. I don't know if I'm above a dog, but my damn machinery won't work, and I haven't had no insulin. So, What? Okay. All I want to do is say one thing. I've cried for a month. And now to the end of it, I told Jared, I said, I can't do that. I don't want to cry like a bald baby in front of everybody so they know how weak I am. But, when I see all of you people, and I know 90% all car people, and love cars and what they are, and to be at George's funeral, this is an honor. It's a real honor to know a person. And knowing, and this is the best way to know how he is going, and you can picture yourself of going away too. So think about yourself, what your future is, and how to do it to where you can be happy once you get in that box. Because once you get in that box, you ain't getting out.
Well, I know what you're all thinking.
that George would live forever. And we all did. We all thought George would live forever. We never thought this would happen. But George did live a long and full life. He packed it in. George was born with style, the Barris style. Is somebody speaking? George was born with style, the Barris style. He became the king of customizers and influenced the world with his style. George was a devoted family man. He married the most elegant, beautiful, and talented woman in the world, my mother, Shirley Ann Ahab. They were a match made by the gods. Shirley was George's muse. Together they were unstoppable. George and Shirley were also amazing parents. In my new book, King of the Customizers, The Art of George Barris, thank you, I describe, yes, 5 years, 1,000 photos, 500 pages. I describe my life growing up in my essay titled, The Luckiest Kid in the World. I had it all growing up. I had the golden ticket. George was also a father and mentor to many boys, girls, men, and women. He was a modest boy who became a successful designer, creator, businessman, father, and family man, all in one. He achieved his dreams and urged others to pursue theirs. So George will actually live forever through all those things he influenced and all the things he made, and through all of us. And lastly, I would like to acknowledge my sister Joji, who gave my father the best care ever. A man in his final days, he was treated like a king. He had more nurses and things. It was just amazing, and you couldn't go in a better way. He was very peaceful, comfortable, and he went the way he wanted to go. I mean, the last picture I saw, he was doing wheelie, and it was wheelchair with Tony. And when the next thing, that was it. And that George didn't want to have people to rely on him. He didn't want anybody to trouble other people for him. That's the type of man he was, you know. And so I really want to appreciate what my sister did. It was just, he was treated like a king. And also, my nephew Jared, who, as Blackie said, put not only this whole event here, but the Galpin event at Galpin Gas after this. Anyways, Jared, you did, I can't believe what an exceptional job you did. Thank you. And this season is the season to be thankful, so this season we give thanks to George Barris. Thank you.
Bravo.
Here's George Jr. here. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Your love and support is just helping us so much. Okay. Daddy's Girl became a role that I lived to its fullest. Dad, I want to speak to you today to tell you, thank you for the amazing life you've given me. Growing up was so magical. You and Mom gave us everything and more. We didn't even have to ask. Thank you for my fun pink bedroom with custom furniture and groovy stickers on my closet. My pets, my horse, my custom cars, my mini bike and dirt motorcycle. The best family summer vacations. Being there for me for all the good times and bad, not only helping me with those bad times, but walking right next to me to get through it. You taught us so many things. Our faith in God, love of family, working hard always pays off. Ask, can I help? Be grateful and thankful. Push to be your best. Take the word can't out of your vocabulary. Watching you and Mom as grandparents was even better. Your love did not stop. You and Mom lived life to the fullest and including us in it all. even though sometimes those clothes we had to wear were outrageous. We were looked at like, oh, those Barrises with their wild ways. Who do they think they are with those wild colored cars and clothes? You're not supposed to do that. I learned to realize you were blessed to have passion in your life and you applied it in all you did. You were also blessed to believe in yourself, and that is what drove you to create Customs. You left your mark well and brought those ideals to reality. Wow, what you left for our next generations. You passed on what you learned to others. It was always so nice to hear stories from so many people that what you did gave them the start of who they are today. I came to work before Mom died. I believe God wanted me there. God is always right. It was a team of us. I'd rather documenting your history. My husband with his car passion is how we met and married. My son Jared is the blessing of my life. Got right in there helping with the website and even getting some experience with building his truck called Crime Fighter. Thank you, Galvin, but that helped too. Your relationship with him was a very special love. Thank you to our extension family, the Meguiar family, who made us feel like they're our very own family, and making my father a star on all the Car Crazy shows. He broke the mic by talking too much. Most important, your personal time with him that he carried in his heart. Thank you so much for making us look classy. I don't know about the clothes, though. The Bachman family, who always made us feel like family and treated my father like a king in the grand style that he loved. Thank you, Tony. You took so much personal time to travel with my father and help him with anything he asked, and so much around the Barris custom shop. Thank you, Richie, who took my father in as part of his family at your home and honored my father with a custom casket with hours of your personal time. That casket made me speechless, and I feel so good to know that is what surrounds him, your love. Thank you, Lynda Kay, for answering my call to write my father's obituary. What a huge and sensitive task that was, and you honored that for him and my family. Thank you to his many fans who adored his creations. You too were a part of our family. Your belief in him is what drove him to keep doing more. Thank you all for coming today to honor my father and my family today of the celebration of his legacy. I will miss you, Dad, but know you are customizing in heaven. Thank you.
Well, how do you follow all that? I've never really done it, so give me a little break. I did get some advice from my big brother about writing a speech. He told me to do it in big text, but I'm still going to need these. Joji and I have the same prescription. I want to give special thanks to Ed Lozzi for his excellent MC. During the media crisis and the passing of George, we were also devastated, and Ed came in and saved us. My favorite priest and Harley buddy, Father Hicks. We spent a lot of hours, thousands of miles on a motorcycle with these men and women. You get a certain bond that just becomes family. It's an amazing thing. Barry Meguiar, my friend, my hero, my inspiration. I just had a little product placement. And it was just used on the casket. And that's what gave it that fabulous shine. I want to thank my parents coming from Vegas. Hard trip. My brother, my beautiful sister-in-law, Debbie, my nephews, Andrew, Nick. Andrew just passed the bar. First time. He's got cards on him. Anybody want to sue anybody, give him a call. I want to thank all of Georgia's great friends, all the fans. Everybody's been so amazing. You're all beautiful people. Again, I'd like to give a special thanks to Jared for taking care of his mother, just coming up with this beautiful thing and being her support.
It's an amazing thing to watch and to be a part of. I just want to touch on a couple of experiences, from the perspective of being a son-in-law and my, doings with George. So I first met George in 1963. He was working on a Model T hot rod called the Flaky T. It was the first all-fiberglass car that they had ever done. I know you see in 1963, you go, oh, God, it looks like he's 28 years old. So anyway, the car is in my brother-in-law's excellent book. It's actually the first car on the cover, or the inside cover. It also made the card collection, the collector card, trading card collection. It was number 26. So anyway, in the 40 years later, my brother and I went to a charity dinner at Toluca Lake for the Stars Foundation, and my beautiful sister-in-law couldn't make it. So I got to go. So we took a picture of the Flaky T, parked in front of the Custom City in 63, and we were going to have George sign it. So I'm there and I'm looking and I see this woman standing with George, and I felt hard. So anyway, we my brother and I, we got to watch the Batmobile and the Mustang coach being built. That's when we became car guys. So at this dinner, I have to. So anyway, George was there speaking, and they were having the dinner. Afterwards, he was the speaker of honor, and he was doing signing autographs. And Joji was sitting with him at a table, and so I went over there and had some small talk, and she kept ignoring me. So I asked George, "How much for the woman?" So George looks at me like, what a friggin' knucklehead. And she looked at me like, oh, what a putz. So all night long, trying to get her attention, we were out in the valet parking area at the end. She wouldn't talk to me. I tried to give her a card, tried to ask her out on a date. She ignored me, so I got my Beamer M6 and I burned rubber and smoked out Toluca Lake Country Club and the golf course. And now you know what they don't let Jews there. So anyway, years later, I went to ask George for Joji's hand in marriage, and he looks at me and he says, "How much do you want?" I'm just kidding, but the other part really did happen. So I wanted to thank Tony and Richie, who were took care of George. I wanted to thank them for the special attention and the care that they took. It was really amazing, just amazing how they just took him in as a family member. So at this point, George has left us, but I think he has left us as brothers. And I love you guys. I wanted to thank George for giving me my family. I will cherish them, and I will take care of them forever. God bless everybody. Thank you for coming.
Hey guys, I'm going to start off with 3 songs. I'm going to keep this pretty short in general, but I'm going to start off with 3 songs that my grandparents and I used to sing every Big Bear road trip. You guys ready? We are the dingy Barrises you know so much about. Everybody looks at us whenever we go out. We're quoted for the things we always say and do. Everybody likes us, we hope you like us too. Da-da-da-da-da-da, and then Shirley goes, hello, hello, I'm here to say hello. Come in, what business are you in? Hell, glad to see ya, wouldn't want to be ya, hello. and it ends on, we are going to Big Bear, dum da dum dum dum. We are going to Big Bear, dum da dum dum dum. That's the 3 songs. I don't even know how I still remember that, but you know, those things in your life are really what matter. And I think I haven't really written anything, but I just want to leave you with something that I just noticed as I've been going through all this. We are all a product of someone's love. Someone's sacrifice. Whether it's a parent, mentor, friend, we're all a product of someone's love. We are who we are because of certain people in our life. I was because of my grandparents, my mom. My grandparents were something very special, and those of you that are here know that. They had something about them that you just were so addicted to being around. I don't know what it was, but as a kid, I loved being with them. I just remember when my mom first dropped me off, it was these 2 strangers, and I didn't even know who the hell they were. And they were eccentric, and they were loud, and I didn't get to go. I didn't understand why after we went to sushi, they got to go to the movies, and I couldn't go. It was a school night. And, you know, they really gave me a lot of love in my life, and they challenged me. It was never about just giving me things, but it was about challenging me, how I thought about things, you know. It's never about just doing what you're told, it's about going beyond that. You can easily be told, do what you're told, but it's what you do afterwards, and what you do to make yourself better. Because you don't learn from just doing what you're told. You learn from doing more than that. My grandparents taught me that every day. And where you guys saw genius, I saw hard work. Where you guys saw genius, where you guys saw the Batmobile selling for as much as it did, I saw hard work. I saw a man that got up at 8 a.m., got to the shop, would get his muffins, would turn on some 101.1 jazz, and he would just get to work. And he worked until his mind couldn't stop until 10 p.m. at night. And he would get up again and do it again. Every day. He came to most of them. My grandpa's a very special man. He was there during some of the hardest times in our life. He was. And he never complained. He never did. Because he was a troublemaker too. So anyways, I just want to thank a couple people. The Bachman family, Dave Shine, I'd like to thank both of you guys, you know. And I'm not thanking you for, I told you outside, I'm not thanking you for today. I'm not thanking you for yesterday. I'm thanking for you for the past couple decades, at least in my life, that you've been there. You guys are very special, and it's genuine. It's not anything more than that. I want to say thank you to you. The Meguiars, thank you. Barry, I wanted to let you know something. I didn't tell you when we went to lunch, but I thought you'd like to hear this. The nurse asked my grandpa, and one of the last few words I heard my grandpa say, she said, "What's the most important thing to you, George?" It was really funny. I don't know how he did it. He'd be sleeping, and all of a sudden they're like, "Okay, please stand." He'd rise up, and he just fall asleep, saying, "I was like, all right, dude." Jesus. I want to thank Tony Wood. Tony, you're my grandpa's best friend, and I knew that when my grandpa was with you, that I was going to be okay. That he would, at least if he got in trouble, he had someone that could take a hit. Because he used to yell at, you know. Uncle Brett, I want to thank you for, you know, this isn't PR for your book, but what your book provided to this family, at least for me, was stories that I'll never forget. And I'll talk about that later, but the stories are pretty incredible that he used to tell me. And it became because of that, because his memory wasn't as sharp. So whatever you did in that room, get interviews out of him, it worked. Mom and Barry, you guys said thank you to me. You said thank you for this event. But I saw my mom. I cried. I saw you putting his pills together. 11 p.m. at night. This is the least I can do. This is the least. Are you kidding me? This is a joke. Let's lights up some photos. I had a great team. Thank you, Mom and Barry. I'm serious. No one will ever see what I saw. And it was fucking beautiful. It was beautiful. It really was. I want to thank the car community. I know it's vague, but I really want to thank the car community because, you know what, I work in advertising and there's no other industry in this world that takes time to recognize people like Blackie, people like my grandpa, that don't just, you know, a lot of industries are already on to the next thing. What's the next big thing? But you guys take the time to remember the people that work with their hands. Something that not many of us will ever do. Because, you know, we do computers. Computers, the damn box. Thank you for working for your hands, Blackie. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for coming up here. I know it took a lot. Thank you very much. I have nothing much more to say. But anyways, I just want to say thank you guys. What we're going to show next, I just want to let you know. Ralph Riccardi, my grandpa's really good friend, and I put it together with James Bills. Put together, and I did this, I didn't do this for you, I did it for myself. I was a little selfish. But I thought you guys would like to hear George one last time. And this is the last personal interview he did. He did it with me and Ralph, and it was after he got diagnosed with his stage 3 tumor a couple years ago. My mom said it's time to get, you know, let's do a little personal interview. And we cut together what we think is the best experience of him. And I want to thank you guys very much for coming today. Thank you for your support. We love you guys, and I look forward to staying friends with you for the rest of my life. Thank you, Jadu. To my city in Jadu.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I've traveled each and every highway. Oh, and more, much more than this. I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, and saw it the blows and did it our way. Yes, it was mine.